The Mario Kart series is one of the most popular in the world for both Nintendo and non-Nintendo fans alike. My friends are mostly Xbox and PlayStation, but they even can tell you that they have played a Mario Kart game once or twice, and they can remember some of the tracks very fondly. With over 10 games in the series, including the deluxe version of Mario Kart 8 and the brand new iPhone game Mario Kart Tour, we have plenty of tracks to go around. And throughout the series, many tracks got reused and remade as future games started to hit the market. So we got to see many tracks come back, but there are still those tracks out there that were a one and done, or at least had 2 appearances in Mario Kart, and they were very vague. There are some tracks out there that you guys may not even remember based off of old age, or some tracks that just didn't really click into your mind that may have been kind of recently, such as Mario Kart 7. So starting from Super Mario Kart all the way up to Mario Kart 7, I made a list of 24 tracks that I believe lots of you guys may have forgotten or may have slipped your mind since you played them last. Now before we get started, here are the basic concepts. I went all the way up to Mario Kart 7 because I believe Mario Kart 8 is way too recent for us to really forget any of those tracks, including the fact that we have the deluxe version of Mario Kart 8 already. So I pretty much stopped at Mario Kart 7, and I also didn't include any type of Rainbow Roads or Mario Circuits or Bowser's Castles because they changed periodically from game to game just because they were not really a set in stone stage. They kind of evolved. Also take in consideration that none of these tracks are in any specific order, and they are not necessarily better than one another. They are just all listed here for 24 different tracks that you guys may have forgotten in Mario Kart. And like always guys, thank you so much for viewing this video today. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like, and please feel free to subscribe if you're new to the channel. We are on our way to 50,000 subs. We are so close, and I thank you guys every day for tuning in to the content. Without further ado, let's get into the video. The first one we have here comes from Super Mario Kart, and it's the only one from that game, being Vanilla Lake. We really didn't see this stage come back in too many different ways. This had alternate forms, but Vanilla Lake is something that's pretty much original to Super Mario Kart. It is just this track that you go around this giant ice lake, and you just go in circles. It's nothing really crazy or unique, but why not bring it back into an HD version and see what it looks like then? From Mario Kart 64, we have not Moo Moo Meadows, but Moo Moo Farms. Everybody's pretty much heard of Moo Moo Meadows, and it's been reused multiple times, and we even see it in Mario Kart 8. But one thing that we don't really see anymore is Moo Moo Farm. Moo Moo Farm is kind of the same, but it's just an entire dirt path where Monty Moles pop up out of the ground. It's nothing special either, it's more like a giant circle lap, but it's something that we haven't seen in a while. Frappe Snowland is a stage that also came back in Mario Kart DS, but it's one of my favorites. I really like the snow aesthetic with the snowman, the giant snow statues of Mario, and even the giant snow walls at the very end. It feels like it's all caving in on you, and it's pretty cool. Going up and down the bumps would be really cool to do tricks on in games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe or even Mario Kart Tour, so it really stinks that this stage really didn't come back in any way, shape, or form. Choco Mountain is another one that's appeared on the Nintendo DS hardware, but it's a stage that we haven't seen in a while. The walls look like they're also caving in on you. You can go through mountainsides, through caves, and it's pretty unique. I really like the aesthetic of the mountainside and the cliffs, which is something that we don't get too much in a Mario Kart franchise. From Mario Kart Super Circuit, we start off with Riverside Park, which reminds me a lot of Donut Plains. There's lots of little bridges and water passes that you can jump over and go through, which is pretty neat. The whole atmosphere is amazing, how it's this kind of tropical jungle, and the sky is kind of this sunset. It feels so right. It reminds me of DK Parkway as well, and I think it's something that would be cool to return. Boo Lake is something that may be hard to remember because it reminds us of stages that are so similar, like Banshee and Haunted Boardwalk. This is pretty much the same. You're up on this magical cliff that's floating, and you're riding this boardwalk the entire time, and you can fall off, and the Boo will take your coins if you fall off. There's also Boos floating around the stage holding candles, which is cool for the aesthetic, but I just don't understand really why it's called Boo Lake. Maybe there's a lake down there that's just not rendered in for sake of running the game smoothly, but it's called Boo Lake, so we're going with Boo Lake. Sky Garden actually returns on the DS, but it is a very beautiful track to ride, but a difficult track to master, because there's a lot of shortcuts that you can take with power boost with the mushrooms in order to jump from cloud to cloud, but if you miss, you will fall down and have to be placed back on a track, which can take some time out of your speed. Sunset Wilds reminds me a lot of Calamari Desert, except there's not really a train that goes through the middle of the map. It's a pretty cool map with quicksand and mud that you can hop through, but it's a pretty basic one overall. There's little bumps and stuff that you could possibly do tricks if this was a modern Mario Kart, but most of the stage is known for its sand, its dirt, and its mud that can slow the player down, so using any type of boost power-up would be best. And there's also cool like Shy Guy totem poles and Shy Guy tents laid out everywhere that they can pretty much jump onto you and cling onto you to slow you down, which is pretty cool. And during the track, the sunset will turn to night, which is pretty unique that it can even do that during the time. Snowland is a pretty unique one because it has lots of shortcuts and it's pretty difficult as well. There's lots of things to dodge, like trees, snowmen, ice, and even water puddles. And if you really want to hit those shortcuts, you gotta make sure you have your mushrooms ready to go. But they can be very crucial into winning the game. Yoshi Desert is your basic desert track, and with the occasional obstacles to dodge, it's really nothing that crazy or tricky, but the cool thing is there is an oasis towards the end, right before you reach the goal, which you can bust through right over top of the water, which is a pretty cool shortcut. And we could literally talk about almost every track in this game, but I summed it up with this one right here being the Broken Pier, which is yet again another pier type of level, but I think that background and everything looks pretty cool, and there's like little drawbridges you can go over, but the background, I mean, look at that, it's just like monstrous volcano mountains with faces, and it looks cool and it feels cool. Plus, there's a lot of jumps that you can jump over, and a lot of tricky things that you can perform without taking damage, so you gotta really make sure you know what you're doing if you want to hit these shortcuts. It's now time to go over the 3D tracks, and we start off with Mario Kart Double Dash's Mushroom Bridge. I absolutely loved this stage as a kid because I just thought it was so cool to have this kind of city theme for Mario Kart. You've seen all of these cars on the road with you and these buses that can knock you over at any instance, and it was so cool. The greatest part is obviously the bridge itself because you could test your courage by riding on the rails of the bridge. Yes, you could actually fall off and ruin the whole race, but it will grant you a little bit more speed to get the last needed victory lap, which is amazing. I love this stage. There's also a cool little pipe shortcut you can take, and it feels so great. At first, I kind of wanted to stray away from character-owned specific courses, like all of Wario's different stadiums, for instance, because they pretty much change with every new installment, so it was really hard to kind of, say this should have been in the game when they're just going to make a new one regardless. But we had to look at Waluigi Stadium because I love this track. There were so many bumps and hills that would be perfect for the newer games so you can glide or do tricks on, and I know this returned in Wii, but I feel like it needs to return again in HD. I love this stage. The fact that you can see people going up over the bridge above you, and you can, hit these amazing drifts to watch out for the mud, and the section with the little piranha plants coming out of the pipes and the fire bars, it just all comes together for an iconic, really nice stage. Okay, I'm gonna be quite honest, I'm not a big fan of Mushroom City. It is just complete chaos and havoc. Sometimes you don't even know where you're going. There's so many different alternate paths and places you can go, and there's just cars coming at you head on in every which way, in every direction. It is a confusing mess of a stage. Just look at this video. But for the most part, I understand why it didn't come back, but it would kind of be cool to see it come back and just see all the chaos on online gameplay. I don't even know if I want this back. I'm just having, a problem watching this. In Wario Coliseum, oh my goodness, this stage is ridiculous. It is like a giant Daredevil arena, and it is so cool to jump off of these cage links and just land on other ones, and just there's like a giant ball in the middle where like the motorcycles spin around. I'm geeking out. I love this stage. This stage is amazing. I have not seen it in so long, and it needs to return. It's not that difficult of a stage to race on, but just the atmosphere and the way it looks and the technique you'll need for drifting at least is just one of the most unique stages I have seen to date. Moving on to Mario Kart DS, we have Delfino Square, which actually came to Mario Kart Wii, but it's a really cool stage that represents Super Mario Sunshine, my favorite game. But it's a pretty cool stage that you're going throughout the city around statues and right through buildings in order to get over a giant river with a moving drawbridge and going throughout the fields. It's actually a really cool dynamic stage that progresses the further you go. Shroom Ridge is kind of like Mushroom Bridge, but it's without the bridge. It's just the street and lots of cars and lots of cool scenery with the grass and the trees, and that works really well. You go through hills, through tunnels, and you can even fall off and fall into the water and off the cliff. So you really got to make sure where you're going, especially towards the beginning and the end, but it's a cool track nevertheless. Peach Garden is another track that came back in Wii, but it was actually kind of cool because there was lots of little flower shortcuts that you needed to take with mushrooms in order to get through as fast as you can. And there's lots of little things you could do in order to dodge the hedges and the bushes, and you never knew when that chain chomp was going to come around the corner and completely clap you. It was amazing at all the little cool little knickknacks and things you could do in order to make sure that you beat your opponent. Like I said, mushrooms are very key here because you can bust through almost every bush, besides obviously the ones that are rock solid for some reason, but it is a course that can be easily forgotten by some. Mario Kart Wii only had 2 tracks because most of them either got remade or they're very important to the point where we can remember them pretty well. But the first one we have is Toad's Factory, which is one that I liked a lot. There was lots of mud that you had to get through, and you kind of went in and out of the factory towards the beginning and towards the end, and it was really cool. You had to dodge conveyor belts and moving platforms, and it was a really cool stage. Moonview Highway is the better version of Mushroom City, if you ask me, and I understand that they're kind of going on this trend where they're just making new city variants in every installment, but I really like this one because it was kind of peaceful compared to the previous one. It's not cars going in random directions. They're actually traveling the way they're supposed to on the road, except for those bomb cars that completely devastate your race. But you gotta watch out for some, cliffhangers falling off the road. But for the most part, it's really fun, and you can really zoom through the city with the speed pads. Now, I decided to add Mario Kart 7, even though that it's kind of a recent title. There are some tracks that I feel like we may not see anytime soon that I thought were really good. And the first one is Cheap Cheap Cape. Yes, we get lots of Cheap Cheap beaches and Shy Guy beaches and stuff like that, but this one was pretty cool, how you could go into this little cavern, into the cave, and fly off of the platform, and even take that skinny little platform shortcut in order to continue onward, and I just thought it was a really cool atmosphere. Wuhu Island and Mountain Loop were some of the most iconic tracks for me, and it really represents the future of Mario Kart tracks. The fact that there aren't laps, but instead there's checkpoints, makes it so cool. You go on this one single stretch along this entirety of the stage without really recycling any part of the stage over again, which is so cool. It's actually an exact replica from Wii Sports Resort, the island, Wuhu Island itself, which is such an iconic stage to me, and I feel like this definitely needs to return one way or another, considering the fact that that method has been added in future Mario Kart games like Mario Kart 8 with F-Zero's Big Blue. Wario's Galleon, being another character-specific stage, is pretty unique. It's this kind of castle fortress where you're going underneath in this cage, and you eventually get back outside to this wrecked ship, and it's pouring down raining, and you're pretty much making a U-turn up the hull of the ship and back around to continue on with the stage, which is really unique for a stage and something that we really haven't seen yet. You come up out of the water and all the way back into it, and it's just a really cool stage nevertheless. And last but not least, we get one of Rosalina's very first tracks being Rosalina's Ice World, which is a pretty basic standard of an ice track. Nothing much. You'll spend most of the time either in the cave caverns, under the water, or on the top layer of ice, depending on how you take the platforms. If you had a mushroom and boost it to the top, then you'll get the quicker top path that's out of the water, but for the most part, it is a basic stage. Well guys, that is my list of the 24 tracks that I believe have been kind of lost in Nintendo's Mario Kart history. Some of these tracks are actually really cool, and I'm really hoping that they come back in future installments. Who knows, we may have a giant collaboration project where almost every single Mario Kart track comes back for an epic conclusion to a Mario Kart franchise, and maybe they'll move on to something bigger like a Nintendo Kart, but who knows? I'm really excited for the future of Nintendo and the future of Mario Kart, period, and if you guys are, make sure you like the video and subscribe to stay up to date on all things Mario Kart coming in the future. Well guys, thank you for tuning in today, and I hope you guys all have a great day. See ya!